It's the middle of the night, somewhere along a frozen, contested seam of the Western Front. Your belly down in cold mud, your face inches from the earth, your M1 rifle pointed into a darkness so thick you can almost taste it. Somewhere behind you, a concertina wire fence. The gap you crawled through to get here is lost in the black. You can't see it. You can't see anything. You can only hear. And what you hear is a boy, an American boy, a young voice somewhere past the gap in the wire, saying the only words a child in that condition can think to say. Mama, mother, over and over. You can tell from the wet sound of his voice that something is terribly wrong with him. From the silence behind it, no rifle fire, no medics, nobody coming. That you are the only one who can still help him. The rest of the patrol has fled back through the wire. Some of them stepped on mines doing it. Your platoon lieutenant was somewhere out there, blown into the concertina, alive but bleeding. You just cut him loose. You sent him crawling for friendly lines. And now there's just you, the boy, and the Germans on the other side of the field, who have heard everything. They're setting up to kill anything that moves. What's your next move? Do you crawl back to safety while you still can? While the wire is just a few yards behind you? Do you tell yourself that he's too far gone? That going for him is a fool's errand? A death sentence? That no commander on Earth would order you to do what you're thinking about doing? Or do you crawl toward the crying, toward the German line? Because something inside you, something built on a New Jersey farm and shaped by generations of quiet, stubborn decency, simply will not let you leave a wounded man alone on the wrong side of the wire. This isn't a movie. This isn't fiction. This was the reality for Walter G. Denise, Walt, a farm kid from Freehold, New Jersey, a Boy Scout, a Christian Scientist, a former medic who didn't want to be a medic, a former enemy alien who became a naturalized citizen on an army base in Texas, and an infantry scout who reckoned he spent some 270 days on the front line of the European theater of World War II. Welcome to POV World War II. I'm your host, Fernando Prieto. Today we're going to walk in Walt's boots. From a Dutch heritage fruit farm in Monmouth County, to a Jesuit campus in Denver, to a troop ship where a sickness almost killed him before he ever saw a German soldier, to the freezing woods near Strasbourg, where he learned the hard way what it costs a man to wear a uniform. What does it mean to be a quiet, thoughtful farm boy? A kid who reads Moby Dick by lamplight and dreads the very idea of killing another human being. And then to find yourself marching into the dark with a rifle in your hands. What does it mean to crawl toward a wounded boy instead of away from him? And how does that single choice, made in a field you can't see, follow you for the rest of your life? This is Walt's story. Today, it's yours. It's the 1930s. You're a kid on a farm just outside of Freehold, New Jersey, Monmouth County. You were born in Osnabrück, Germany, but were adopted as a little boy to the Denise family, whose roots on this farm go back to 1712, and further to Holland before that. You're Dutch by family, but German by birth, and a farm boy down to your fingernails. There's no electricity on the farm when you're small, no running water, a hand pump out in the front yard, an outhouse 200 feet up the hill, by the barn. You and your father wait for the Rural Electrification Administration to come run wire to the house so there can be even a single lit bulb hanging over your kitchen table. When it finally comes, it feels like a small miracle. Your father is a man of strong opinions and stronger principles. He served in the cavalry during the First World War, posted to Chicago, grooming horses. When his unit was about to ship overseas, he was released, judged too light, too underweight to be worth the cost of feeding. He came home, married your mother, a trained contralto who studied at the Walter Damrosch Studios in New York, and took over the family farm when his own father passed away. He grew up a Dutch Reformed Christian, but your mother and grandmother were Christian Scientists, and one day they convinced him to come to a lecture, half out of respect, half out of curiosity. He went grumbling. He came out healed of a smoking habit he hadn't been able to break for years. From that day forward, your father was one of the most devout Christian Scientists you would ever know. And so you grow up in a household where the Bible and Mary Baker Eddy's writings sit on the kitchen table, where prayer is the answer to most problems, and where you're taught, deeply, repeatedly, that God protects those who trust Him. You're not a big kid. By the time you graduate from high school, you're 16 years old, 5 feet 2 inches tall, and 105 pounds. A shrimp, as you would later describe yourself with a laugh. Too small for the varsity wrestling squad. You fight at 95 pounds on the regular team. You join the ag club. You walk nearly a mile just to reach the school bus, and over 2 miles straight to the high school when you miss it. You muck stalls before sunrise. You feed the Belgian Percheron draft horses, huge hairy-footed animals you're honestly terrified will step on you and crush you. You read sea stories, Moby Dick. You dream briefly of running off to be a sailor. And in fact, when you're 16, you do something almost no one in Freehold ever does. You spend a few months on a 5-masted barkentine you remember as the Marsala, learning to deal with the rigors of naval discipline. You get homesick by October and come home. A short time later, the Marsala goes south for winter quarters in Florida, gets caught in a storm, and is wrecked. The ship is destroyed. The crew survives. You'll think about that later. Why did you get homesick? What were you protected from? You'll come to believe more and more strongly as you get older that something, someone, was watching over you, even then. But for now, you're a farm boy. You work in the orchards your father planted. You map the trees out on big sheets of paper, marking every variety in row, plotting them like a young engineer in training. You can already feel in your bones that you're more of a mechanic than a farmer. You like working with your hands. You like solving problems. What kind of life do you imagine for yourself in 1939? Maybe a quiet one. Maybe you'll take over the farm someday. Maybe you'll fix tractors, build cold storage barns, marry a girl from church. Maybe the news from Europe, the dirigible Hindenburg dropping out of the sky over Lakehurst. And yes, you saw it fly over your house that very night before it went down. And yes, the ship's commander, Captain Proust, turned out to be a distant relative of your grandmother's. Maybe that news from Europe will stay in Europe. But it won't. Of course it won't. On a Sunday in December 1941, you're on a beach with some friends when the news comes over the radio. Japanese aircraft have struck Pearl Harbor. The United States is at war. You go silent. You think about how this changes everything. You think about your friends, about the boys you've grown up with. You think that you, in good conscience, can't stay home. Not after this. You walk down to the recruiting office and you try to join the Marines. They reject you. You wear glasses. You have a heart issue from your wrestling and Boy Scout days. The Marines, in their wisdom, don't want you. But what really stings, what sits with you, happens after the draft board calls. You are, in the eyes of the United States government, an enemy alien because you were born in Germany and never formally naturalized. The law has automatically branded you with suspicion in the country you love. You'll carry that brand into every conversation with the recruiters. You'll feel it when they put a uniform on you and tell you what you can and cannot do. So when can you actually fight? When can you stop being a category and start being a soldier? The answer, when it comes, is the Army. You take the oath, you report, and then almost immediately, the Army does the one thing you don't want them to do. They put you in the medics. You're now a litter bearer, then an ambulance driver. The Army has looked at your file, the religious affiliation, the conscientious tendencies, the enemy alien stamp, and decided that the safest place for you is among the medics, treating wounded men, carrying bodies, ferrying the broken back from the line. And you can't do this. Not really. It's not, you would explain again and again, that you're a pacifist. You're not a conscientious objector. You believe in this war. You believe Hitler must be stopped. You felt the rage and grief of Pearl Harbor as strongly as anyone. You want to serve. You want to be there. You want to be a participant, not someone watching from the side. But you're a Christian Scientist. Your faith teaches you that medication is not the answer to suffering, that prayer, properly understood, can heal what doctors can't. You believe this with your whole heart, and here's the Army putting you in a job that requires you to inject morphine, distribute sulfa, dose the dying. It's a job you can't do, in good conscience. You try to get out. You go over a sergeant's head, you petition. They threaten you with a court-martial for insubordination. You go right up to a battalion commander, and finally, mercifully, you're released from the medics. In the meantime, the Army has discovered that you have a brain. They send you to the Army Specialized Training Program, ASTP, at a Jesuit university in Denver. It's a strange experience for a kid raised in Christian Science. Several times the priests try to invite you to the grotto. You decline politely. You don't want to fight. You just want the engineering curriculum, the math classes, the physics, the chance to put your farm boy problem-solving skills to formal use. You climb mountains on your weekends off, alone mostly. Your buddies want to go into town and chase girls. You want to commune with God in the high air of Colorado. You ride trolley cars through downtown Denver. Eventually, you're transferred to Iowa State. You eat well at the Ag campus, where the nurses' training school provides the most pleasant scenery a young soldier could ask for. And then, one day, the Army terminates ASTP. The promise of an engineering degree is gone. They need bodies in the infantry, not engineering students in classrooms. Some men around you are furious. They were promised a career, and now they're being sent to be killed. You aren't furious. The classroom was never the point. You signed up to fight, and now the Army is finally letting you. You'll need that steadiness 1,000 times in the next 2 years. There is one moment, though, one moment before you ship out, that you'll never forget. You're at Fort Bliss, Texas. They line you up, they administer the oath of naturalization. And in that moment, the long shadow that has hung over you, the enemy alien stamp, the suspicion, the bureaucratic limbo of being almost American, falls away. You raise your right hand. You become, on paper, what you've always been in your heart. What does that feel like? Exhilaration, pure exhilaration. You're now truly American. You'll say later with feeling that people raised in this country have no idea what they have. You have just been given the most precious citizenship on earth. And you'll carry that feeling with you into every patrol, every cold foxhole, every miserable night. Now you can fight as one of America's own. The Army puts you in Company K. You'll tell anyone who asks that you chose K Company for one reason, and one reason only. They had the best mess sergeant. He was a man who, you'll come to learn, drove a Jeep through artillery fire to bring you hot pancakes in Mermite cans. A man who said, "My boys are going to eat, no matter what." You loved him for it. In Company K, you become a scout. A squad scout first, then a platoon scout, then attached as one of 4 battalion scouts. You don't know why they pick you for it. Maybe because of your higher Army test scores. Maybe because of your farm boy comfort in the woods. Maybe because you can read a contour map with your eyes shut. Or just because somebody, somewhere up the chain, looked at your file and thought, this one moves quietly. You take to it. You get special training. You handle every weapon the Army has. M1 rifles, carbines, grease guns, mortars, machine guns, hand grenades, and even bayonets. You learn that on patrol, the bayonet goes in your boot, not in its scabbard, because the scabbard rattles. You learn to wrap a piece of rubber hose from your otherwise useless gas mask around your dog tags so they don't clink against each other when you move. You learn never to wear your helmet on patrol because it scrapes brush. You learn to be quiet, and then you ship out. You're below decks on a converted troop ship packed in with thousands of other men, stacked 13 bunks deep. The bunks are rope and canvas slung on pipe racks, and they fold up every morning. The space between you and the man above you is less than the width of your shoulders. You can't turn on your side without elbowing the soldier above you in the back. The air is stale. The smell is exactly what you would expect when several thousand men are sealed in a metal can for 11 days. Once a day, if you're lucky, they let you up on deck for 10 minutes of fresh air. The rest of the time, you sit, you wait, you play cards, you write letters home. Your mother is writing to you every day from Freehold, even though you won't see any of those letters until weeks from now. You ask for deck duty. Suddenly, you're working topside, lashing equipment, helping run errands. You get an extra meal, 3 a day instead of 2. You get the sky over your head. And then, somewhere out in the gray middle of the Atlantic, the sickness comes. You won't remember most of what happens next. You know that you collapsed. You know that for 5 full days you were unconscious. You didn't know whether it was day or night, whether you were on a ship or in a hospital, whether you were alive. The ship's doctors didn't know what was wrong with you. They couldn't diagnose you at sea. The convoy churned on. Around you, depth charges thudded into the water as destroyer escorts patrolled against the constant threat of German U-boats. You never saw a submarine. None of your ships were hit. You didn't see any of it. You were drifting somewhere very far away in your own head. Can you feel how close you came to dying? Can you imagine your mother's letters piling up at the post office, unread, while her son lay on a bunk far below decks? The ship reaches port at Cherbourg, France. You're taken over the side in a litter. They put you in a skiff, motor you to shore, transfer you to an ambulance, drive you to a hospital. And somewhere in the transfer, somewhere between the salt spray and the smell of French dust, you wake up. The doctors finally have a name for what almost killed you: spinal meningitis. They put needles into your spine. They tap fluid. They probe again and again and again. You dread every single procedure. The last one, the one they say is just to be sure it's all gone, terrifies you more than any of the others. You lie there sweating, certain that this time the needle will slip and they'll paralyze you forever. They don't. The procedure works. The infection clears. You spend about 10 days in the hospital. You parade up and down the halls like a cat in a cage, healthier by the day, desperate to get out. You wander down to the TB ward and get yelled at by orderlies. You charm the nurses. You volunteer for everything. And finally, when they tell you that you're well enough to leave, you don't wait for the army bus. You hitch a ride, civilian car, French country roads. You catch up to your unit at Brest. Do you understand now why you'll spend the rest of your life believing, quietly but firmly, that something was looking out for you? You barely had the strength to walk when they put you back into your uniform, but you walked. And from Brest, the army sent you east into combat. Imagine the cold. You're in the woods of eastern France, the southern flank of the broad American push that has been hammering the Germans since the previous summer. You're not in the famous places, not the headline battles, not the hedgerows of Normandy that other divisions fought through, not the bloody hills of the Bulge. You're in the southern branch of the Allied advance, near Strasbourg. You're in the Vosges, a place that should be beautiful, that probably was before this, but's now full of buried mines and German artillery and dead men in the snow. The temperature is below freezing more often than not. It snows. Then it drizzles cold rain on the snow. Then it freezes again. You sit in a foxhole 24 hours a day. The bottom of your hole is full of water. You wear rubberized boots, packs, you call them, that look ugly as sin but are blessedly waterproof. Some men still get their feet frozen. You sweat under your layers when you move, then freeze when you stop. You're blue when you take your clothes off in the rare showers behind the lines. You've lost more weight than you knew you could lose. The Germans have a saying about this part of the front. It's good country for defense. The forest is thick. The artillery sites are pre-registered. Every clearing has a number stuck in some gunner's notebook. When you cross a meadow, somewhere a German is calculating fire on you before you even step into the open. You build your foxhole carefully. You cover the top with logs, always with logs, because when the artillery comes, and it comes, it doesn't just fall straight down. The Germans have a particular nasty habit of using air bursts, fuses that detonate 10 or 20 feet above the ground, raining shrapnel sideways into anything below. Worse are the tree bursts, shells timed to hit a branch 50 feet up, exploding overhead, sending steel fragments down through the canopy with terrible force. A foxhole without cover overhead is a coffin. You learn what each German weapon sounds like, the high ripping snarl of an MG-42 firing 1,300 rounds a minute, twice the rate of your own American machine guns, fast enough that individual shots blur into one long tearing note. You can hear the German gunners changing barrels every minute or so, the red-hot steel hissing in the dark. You learn the crack boom of the 88mm, the legendary gun the Germans put on their tanks, use against aircraft, and deploy as artillery. With a flat trajectory and a deadly accuracy nothing in your inventory can match. You learn the soft, whisper thump of the potato masher grenade, the German hand grenade with its long handle, fused by a friction wire pulled before throwing, silent until detonation. You learn to hate white phosphorus most of all. You promise yourself you'll never let a single fleck of it touch your skin, because it burns through flesh like it wasn't there. What do you do all day? You watch, you listen, you eat when you can. The K-rations come in waxed cardboard boxes. In the morning, a chunk of compressed pork roll that you choke down because you need the protein. At lunch, a wad of processed cheese because, well, let's just say one ration loosens you up and the other tightens you back down. And the GI body needs the balance to keep functioning. On patrols, you carry the D-bar, an emergency chocolate ration about the size of your thumb. The instructions printed on the wrapper tell you not to eat it in less than half an hour. You laugh out loud the first time you read that. The bar is so hard in the cold that you can barely scratch it with your teeth. You work at it like a piece of slate, getting a thin trace of flavor for every minute of effort. And you swear you'll never take a hot meal at your mother's kitchen table for granted again. There are letters, none for 6 weeks at a time, and then, suddenly, 72 all at once. 42 of them from your mother alone. You read them by hand-cupped flashlight in your foxhole, and you feel her voice all the way from New Jersey. And for 10 minutes, the war goes away. There are funnies, too. Bill Malden draws cartoons for Stars and Stripes. 2 GIs named Willie and Joe, mud-caked and stubbled and tired, and they look exactly like you. When things get tense in your foxhole and a man's nerves are about to break, somebody will pipe up and say, "Hey, how about Joe today?" And everyone laughs, because Bill Malden hits the average mudhole GI right on the head every time. But mostly what you do as a scout is patrol. You go out at night in 2-man and 4-man teams. You crawl, you watch, you listen, you map, you count. You creep up to the edge of German positions and you mark down where their machine gun nests are, where their wire is laid, where their forward observers are watching. You bring it back. Some lieutenant in the company HQ stares at the rough sketch you've made and decides whether or not to attack. Do you understand the loneliness of it? A scout is out in front. A scout is, by definition, the man closest to the enemy. A scout is the first man into a trap. The rest of the company is somewhere behind you. You feel the silence of the cold woods like a weight. Every snapped twig is a heart attack. Every distant cough is a possible German listening post. Sometimes, incredibly, you can actually feel that your foxhole partner has seen something, even while you're asleep. You wake right up. You ask him. He whispers back, "Yes, I think there's somebody out there." And the two of you sit, eyes open, until the night moves on, or doesn't. And what about the men around you? You meet replacements. They keep coming in green, 2 for every 1 you lose. And they keep dying or freezing or panicking. You see them stand up at the wrong moment. You see them fire when they should be silent and fall silent when they should be firing. You see them sleep through their watch and wake screaming. You see them, in the dark, mistake one of your own officers for a German and shoot him. He survives, armor-piercing round, clean enough, back on the line in a week. Friendly fire. It happens. It happens more than folks at home will ever understand. And you meet officers, not the steady ones who are out there in the foxholes with you, dressed like everyone else with their rank covered up so the German snipers can't pick them off. You meet officers like Lieutenant Harrop. Harrop was supposed to be a good one. He talked like a regular GI in training. He drilled with you, ate with you, called you by your first name, until the first attack. And then Harrop disappeared. Nobody knew what had happened. And then weeks later, he came back to your unit with captain's bars sewn shiny on his shoulders for everyone to see. Not concealed like every veteran officer hid his rank, out in the open, visible from a long way away. The kind of bars a German sniper would prioritize over any other target on the line. He came up to you one day, troubled, and asked, "Denise, why won't the men talk to me?" And you looked him in the eye, this captain, this man wearing a higher rank than you would ever wear, and you said, with the bluntness of a kid raised on a Monmouth County farm who has nothing left to lose, "Captain, as far as these men are concerned, you're a deserter. They have no respect for you. I would recommend that you leave, sir, now." He protested. He said he couldn't help what he did. He'd been afraid. And you said, "That may be, but why don't you head back?" He did. He became a general's aide. He never came back to the line. What would you have done? Could you have looked a fellow officer in the eye and told him to go? Could you have done it without bitterness, without making it personal, just as a fact of the war, the way a farmer tells a tenant the lease is up? You did. And the men in your platoon, the ones who were still alive, saw you do it. And it earned you something money can't buy, their trust. You'll need it, because what's coming next is the night that haunts you for the rest of your life. You've been pulled into a mixed patrol. You and 3 other battalion scouts, the regulars, the men who do this kind of work in their sleep, are going out tonight with a platoon from I Company. Half the platoon will lead, the other half will follow. The 4 of you scouts are in the middle, just behind the lead element. The plan is simple on paper. Cross the open ground, pass through the gap in the German concertina wire, and then split. Left and right, 2 scouts with each group to flank the enemy positions. You don't like it. You never like large patrols. There are too many men, too many boots, too much breathing, too many ways for something to go wrong. But the orders are the orders, and you load up your gear and you move out into the dark. What do you bring on a patrol like this? The bayonet, not on your belt, but in your boot. Your M1, loaded and ready. Grenades, the American kind, the pineapple-shaped ones, with the 4 or 5 second fuse that you have to count out yourself after you let the spoon fly. No helmet. The helmet brushes against branches and makes noise. The dog tags wrapped tight in repurposed rubber hose. The D-bar in your jacket pocket, in case you don't make it back tonight and have to wait through tomorrow in a ditch. Do you trust your team? Yes. The other 3 battalion scouts are men just like you, quiet, watchful veterans. The platoon from I Company is unknown to you. You've never patrolled with them before, and the lieutenant in command is somebody you don't really know either. The patrol crawls forward in the dark. You reach the wire. The forward element holds. You hold behind them. Something is wrong. You can feel the line bunching up ahead of you. Men pausing, men hesitating. The 4 of you scouts are spaced well back from the lead element, deliberately not bunched up, because being right behind another man is exactly how a single machine gun burst kills 3 soldiers at once. You don't know yet what's happening. You'll only learn later that the forward element has, in fact, cut through the German concertina, a thoughtful, careful piece of work. But on the other side of the wire, Something has spooked one of the lead men. He's seen a German machine gun maybe, set up just yards from where the patrol is passing through, and he fires. And in that single instant, in the half second between a finger pulling a trigger and a German starting to scream his orders, all hell breaks loose. What's your next move? The platoon ahead of you, panicking, runs. They turn around and run back through the wire. But here's the cruel arithmetic of a panicked patrol. They don't know where the gap is anymore. The wire is concertina, coiled and vicious with barbs. And in the dark, every section of it looks like every other section. Men hit it at full sprint, get tangled in it, try to climb over and get hung up. And the Germans were already half expecting something like this. Open up with everything they've got. Flares go up, machine guns hammer, mortars start walking in. And then somebody, almost certainly American, sets off a landmine. You're flat on the ground now. The four of you scouts have done the one thing the years of training taught you to do in a moment like this. You've stopped where you are, formed a defensive position, and covered the withdrawal. Your job is to keep firing, keep the Germans' heads down, while the panicked platoon scrambles back. You do it. You do it like the regulars you are. You burn through clips of M1 rounds in the dark, the rifle hot in your hands, the empty clips pinging away into the snow with that distinctive metal chime that any infantryman would know in his sleep. It gets quiet eventually. It always does, eventually. The four of you wait until the Germans stop firing. You wait until the screaming behind you fades. You wait until you can hear your own heartbeat. And then, by some unspoken agreement, you begin to crawl back. You make it to the wire. You squeeze through. And there, tangled in the concertina, you find your lieutenant, the man who was in charge of this disaster. He's been blown into the wire by an explosion and is hanging there, alive but bleeding, his uniform shredded, his eyes wide with the kind of shock that follows a near miss. You go to work cutting him loose, strand by strand, careful not to make any more noise than the night itself. He's conscious. He whispers, afraid, half out of his mind, "Look at my rear end! Look at my rear end!" You look. You see a cut. Painful, no doubt, but not mortal, not arterial, not anywhere close to fatal. You tell him you've got a little cut there, but you'll make it back all right. Get going. Take off. Go now. And he goes. He crawls. Somewhere out in the dark behind you, he'll make it within sight of your own lines and then collapse. Fainting from the shock and adrenaline crash. He will live. He will recover. But you're not done. Because that's when you hear the boy calling for his mother. Out there past the wire, on the German side of the gap, somewhere in the chewed up earth that the platoon ran across, a young American voice, wet, frightened, saying the only thing a boy in that condition can think to say. What's your next move? The wire is behind you. Your lines are behind you. Every survival instinct you have is screaming at you to turn around and follow your lieutenant. The Germans are setting up. You can feel it. They're reorganizing. They're going to start sending up flares again. They're going to push out a patrol of their own to make sure no Americans linger in the kill zone. If you stay here, you die. But there's a boy crying for his mother. You go to him. You crawl out, not straight, because straight is suicide, but at an angle, away from the gap, into the area between the German line and yours. You take it slow and silent. You creep on your belly, across ground that is frozen one moment and slush the next. And your uniform soaks through in a way you barely register. You find him. He's stepped on a mine. Both of his legs are gone. Gone in the way that only a mine takes man's legs. Not cleanly, not surgically, but with a horror you can't describe to anyone who was not there. He is conscious. He's impossibly, miraculously, against every medical law you've ever heard of, still conscious. You crouch next to him. You take his hand. You ask him, "Do you know the Lord's Prayer?" He nods. And the two of you say it together, in the freezing dark, in the middle of no man's land, with the German line less than 100 yards away. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven, over and over and over again. While you assess his wounds and figure out, with the cold, practical brain of a kid who spent his childhood mapping orchards and fixing tractors, how on earth you're going to get him back. And here is where God, or whatever you want to call it, answers. Earlier in the day, you would learn later, 4 American tanks passed through this very stretch of ground. They had left tank tracks pressed deep into the soft earth, deep ruts running roughly in the direction of your own lines. Deep enough for a man dragging a legless boy to follow them. Deep enough for the boy to be positioned into and pulled, foot by foot, back toward safety. You and the other scouts haul him. You go on your bellies. You stay in the tracks. You keep his head clear and his torso dragging, and the Lord's Prayer keeps coming out of him in a steady, terrible whisper. He never passes out. The blood loss alone should have killed him. The shock alone should have killed him. The pain alone should have rendered him unconscious. And yet, he holds on. He stays awake. He even, at one point, sits up to watch you work, to watch you cut the loose meat that is still attached to one of his feet, so the foot doesn't catch on a stone and tear the rest of him. And you think to yourself, somewhere in that crawl, what can this body take? This is unbelievable. This is more than I knew a human being could endure. You get him to the aid station. You hand him over. He survives the wound. He survives the surgery. He goes back home to Chicago, marries, and has children. But here's the part of the story that haunts you. Years later, the boy's mother writes to your sergeant. Sergeant Benezet was the name. And she tells him that her son is despondent, that her son has been asking over and over, why didn't you just leave me there to die? That her son sees himself as a burden, a drag on society, a young man with no legs, a missing arm you didn't even know he'd lost until you read this letter, and a future he never wanted. You'll correspond with the mother a few times. You'll try to encourage her. And then decades later, you'll hear that the young man who had once said he was coming to your division's reunion has passed away. You'll still find it hard to talk about. You'll still, after all those years, wonder if you did the right thing. Did you? If you ask the boy on that night in the wire who recited the Lord's Prayer with you, yes, you did right. If you ask the boy 30 years later, despondent, asking why you didn't let him go, that's a harder question, one you'll sit with for the rest of your life. But here's what you tell yourself every time you sit with it. You tell yourself that no soldier, no Christian, no man with a beating heart leaves a kid in the dark calling for his mother. You tell yourself that the choice was made the moment you heard him. And you hold to this. Whatever came after was his to bear and his life to live. But the night was yours, and you did the only thing the man from that freehold farm could possibly have done. For that night, they give you the Bronze Star. They give you the Purple Heart for a shrapnel cut, 2 ribbons, 2 pieces of metal. They don't, of course, cover what it cost you. What does cover it? Nothing. Nothing ever will. By your own reckoning, you spend some 270 days on the line. 270 days. Think about that number for a moment. Think about what that means. Some men in other divisions saw 30 days, 50, 90. Your unit saw 270. That's most of a year. That's most of a year in foxholes and on patrols, and in towns and in cellars and in cold that you'll be unable to describe to your children when they ask, in a cold that goes somewhere in you and it can't be coaxed back out. In that time, your platoon, which should be 56 men, drops to 9. 9 men, not a squad, less than a squad. You lose 2 for every 1 replacement that comes up the line, and the replacements come up green and unaware. You watch them die because they don't know yet not to stand up. not to talk, and not to fire when they think they see something. You take prisoners. You learn that they're not mostly the Germans of the propaganda films. Many of them are Polish, or Hungarian, or Czechoslovakian, boys swept up by the Wehrmacht as it retreated, handed rifles, and told they were Germans now. Many of them don't want to be there. Many of them surrender at the first chance. You bring them back to the rear, hoping the men there will treat them fairly. They don't always do that. You see prisoners abused. It eats at you. You're not Lily White, you decide. None of us are. There's also the time you pull a gun on an officer. You won't go into the details. Suffice it to say that you felt strongly about something, strongly enough to draw your sidearm. And the man on the other end was, in your private opinion, in the wrong, and frankly should not have been where he was. The Army threatens you with court-martial, but gives you a punishment instead. They make you the point man for an entire regimental attack. It's the one man, the one human being, the one heartbeat in front of every other heartbeat in the entire regiment. It's the man whose body would, in theory, set off the first mine. It's the man whose silhouette would catch the first machine gun burst. It's the man who walks into the kill zone on behalf of 2,000 other men. You walked, and not a single American in that attack died. You'll look back at this late in life, and you'll say, maybe I deserve that punishment. Maybe I deserve to be out front. But on a deeper level, you'll also know that you walked because someone needed to walk, and the Army assigned the duty to you, and you went. That was your job that day, and you did it. There's another time, and this one will haunt you in a different way, when you're pulled out of outpost duty for the same incident with the officer. While you're off the line, your outpost is raided. Men are killed there. Men who would not have been killed, you tell yourself, if you had been on duty. You'll spend years going over this. Why did I make it back when so many didn't? Why didn't I die out there with them? Why was I, of all people, allowed to come home? You'll land eventually on an answer. You'll go over every mission you were personally on, every patrol, every action you led, every operation you scouted, and you'll count. And you'll discover that on every single mission you ran, you did not lose a single man. Not one. Not ever. The fatalities, when they came when you were not there. They came when you were sick or pulled off duty or somewhere else. And so you'll quietly conclude, not in arrogance, but in a kind of stunned gratitude, that God protected the men on your missions, that the prayers your mother prayed for you in Freehold reached even into the woods of the Vosges, that you, somehow, were a thread in some larger pattern that you couldn't see from your foxhole. But it doesn't take the haunting away. The Battle of Northwind comes. The Germans launch a counteroffensive against the Allies' southern flank, trying to take advantage of the chaos of the Battle of the Bulge raging to the north. Your unit, extended too far forward, has to withdraw. It's a hard withdrawal. The Germans push. You move back. You hold a new line. The thing about war, you'll learn, is that retreat is not the opposite of bravery. Retreat, done correctly, is bravery. You'll see a tank burning, one of yours, hit by an 88. The interior of a burning tank doesn't behave the way you think. The lead in the batteries melts. The lead in the cartridges and the ammunition racks melts. The molten lead pours out of the bottom of the tank in a slow, awful river. And while the tank is burning, the ammunition is cooking off. Small arms popping, then a deeper boom as the larger rounds detonate. The crew, if any of them are still alive in there, can't come out the top hatch. German snipers are watching. They can't come out the bottom hatch. There's no clearance. They either die in the tank or break for the hatch and test their luck. You decide that you want nothing to do with tanks for the rest of your life. Tanks draw fire. Tanks attract artillery. You're happier as a scout, you decide. Traveling light and quiet and alone. You go on leave once, to Paris. You stay in a hotel without heat, sleeping in your sleeping bag on the top of the bed because there are no sheets. You walk through Notre Dame. You stand under the Arc de Triomphe. You attend a Christian Science service. And there, in the middle of the city, you meet other believers. And one of them gives you a tour. You meet some American staff officers who work at SHAEF, the Supreme Allied Headquarters. You see a Paris that is not yet healed, but is healing. And then you have to go back. That, you'll say later, is the worst part, the going back. The first time, you don't know what you're walking into. The second time, you know exactly what you're walking into. And your body knows. Your body doesn't want to go, but you do. You end up leading your platoon in Company K as a staff sergeant, simply because there are so few men left. You get your commission eventually. You leave to attend officer training, and you come back as a platoon leader in Company I, the same I company you ran that night patrol with. Now you're a lieutenant, wearing your own bars. Like every veteran officer you ever respected, you cover those bars up in combat so the German snipers can't find you. You learn that rank doesn't really change anything. You're still buddies with your men. You still call them by name. You still listen to them. The privileges of rank, the saluting, the formality, all of it disappears the moment the shooting starts. You see the end of the war coming, towns surrendering, white flags, civilians, some of them weeping in the streets as you pass. You also see at the very end things that you'll not be able to talk about for 50 years. You see what's left of the Nazi prison camps. Not the most notorious ones. Those are liberated by other American units and by the Soviets in the East. But you see your share. You see compounds with just 4 machine guns at the corners. And the prisoners don't even try to run because they've come to believe that running is not worth the effort. You see Polish men and Hungarian men and Czech men, and you see SS troops, and you see boys of 12, of 15, captured wearing German uniforms because the German army, at the end, was scraping the bottom of every available human barrel. You see what people are capable of doing to people, and you decide, with a private vow you'll keep for the rest of your life, that you'll never, ever stop telling people what it really costs to fight this war. May 8th, 1945, Germany surrenders. You expect, like every soldier, to be redeployed to the Pacific, the China, Burma, India theater. You've already heard that your unit will be routed through the Suez Canal, around the south of India, to fight a fresh war against Japan. You think, with the grim weariness of a man who has done his share, well, here we go again. Then, in August, a bomb falls on Hiroshima. Days later, another on Nagasaki, and the Japanese surrender. You're home on a 45-day recuperation leave when you hear that the war is over. What do you feel? Thank heavens. That's all you can think to say. Thank heavens. You take the Queen Elizabeth home. The crossing is 4 days. You share a stateroom built for one with 6 other officers. Rank has its privileges, the saying goes. And the privilege is sharing a tiny room with 6 other guys. The gambling on the ship is rampant. The brass try to suppress it, but the ship is over 1,000 feet long, and you can't police 1,000 feet of British liner. Cards in every corner, dice in every passageway. You don't gamble, you walk the deck. You watch the gray Atlantic roll past, and you think about every man who didn't make this trip back. The Statue of Liberty appears in the harbor on the 4th day. You'll never forget the sight of her. You're discharged in February of 1946. They send you home with your papers and your medals and a document that says you served honorably, and they'd like to thank you for your service. You go to Rutgers University, where your father went, class of 1910. You enroll in February, on the very day of your discharge. You throw yourself into a 21 credit hour engineering load. You want, more than anything, to be out of the Army and into a life. You join the Alpha Sigma Phi fraternity. You wrestle on the wrestling team, even though the team doctors initially tell you not to play football or row crew because of an old heart issue from your wrestling days at Freehold, the same issue the Marines used to keep you out. You go through college on the GI Bill, paying for nothing but room and board out of your own pocket, and you graduate in 1948. But this is not, really, a story about Rutgers. This is a story about what happens to a man, 20-something years old, when he tries to go home. You'll sit one Sunday in a church pew, listening to a service. The wind will rattle a set of Venetian blinds in a window, and you'll dive, not flinch, not duck, dive straight down into the pew before you even know what you're doing. You'll sit up, red-faced, embarrassed, and you'll laugh it off. And the people around you will pretend not to have noticed. A car will backfire on a freehold street. You'll hit the ground. And there'll be other moments like that, small, unguarded ones, when something ordinary catches you off guard and you know, again, that some part of the war has not let you go. You won't call these things injuries. You won't let yourself. But you will admit, eventually, that there are lingering feelings, that it takes a while to heal, that you wish more people understood. You'll go to your division's reunions when they finally start happening some 30 years after the war. The first year, the chaplain has a heart attack and can't come, and somebody points at you and says, "Denise, can you give us a service?" And you do. You give a memorial service for the men of your division on a moment's notice. You'll keep giving that memorial service for years. You'll sit with families of the dead. You'll look at photographs of men who, in your memory, are still 20 years old. And you'll hear about their wives and their grandchildren and the lives they almost got to live. You will, late in your life, try to write it all down. First as a short, simple memoir of a few experiences. Then later as a much fuller document with maps and citations and division histories incorporated, so that anyone who reads it will understand not just what happened to you, but what happened to the men around you, what happened in the larger sector, and why any of it mattered. You'll also notice, and you'll note this with a kind of gentle, surprised gratitude, that out of your original platoon of 56 men, you were one of the very few who made it through. By the end, your platoon was down to just 9 men. You'll sit with that for years. You'll ask the Lord why. You'll replay every patrol, every mission, every choice. You'll eventually settle into something like peace with it, not because you understand, but because you don't need to understand anymore. You did your job. You trusted, as your mother and father taught you, that God was somewhere in it, and you came home. What does coming home mean? It means a long, slow process of becoming a citizen again. It means engineering school. It means raising a family on the farm. It means a second career in real estate appraisal, settling boundary disputes, separating agricultural and development rights on farms, helping families divide property fairly after a parent dies. It means serving as a Christian Science chaplain for 14 years across Fort Dix, McGuire, Lakehurst, Earl, Fort Hancock, and Nike sites, ministering to a new generation of young soldiers, one of whom comes to you with a gun on the table and a plan to kill people, and whom you talk down, one careful conversation at a time. It means staying in the reserves for 6 years, almost being called up for Korea, having your father intercede on your behalf. It means tennis twice a week into your 70s. It means watching your sons grow up and not have to go to Vietnam, though you tell them very seriously that if they have to go, they should go, because you believe what you believed at 18, that a man who is asked to defend his country has to defend his country, and that God will protect those who trust him. It means 6 grandchildren. It means saying, when asked about the war, I tried to bare my soul, maybe more than I should have, but people should know. It means being one of the final 9 from a platoon of 56 and carrying the ones you lost with you in every breath you take for the rest of your life. Walter G. Denise was not a famous soldier. He didn't lead a regiment. He didn't appear in any newsreel. His name doesn't show up in the standard textbooks of the Second World War. He was, instead, one of many. A scout, a private, then PFC, then NCO, then lieutenant. A farm boy from a Dutch-American family in Monmouth County, New Jersey, who was carried off a troop ship on a litter at Cherbourg Harbor, barely back from 5 days of unconsciousness with spinal meningitis, who caught up with his unit at Brest, who crawled out under German guns to recover a boy who was crying for his mother, who walked at the point of his regiment as punishment for pulling a gun on an officer who he firmly believed had no business being on that line, who said all his life, with a quiet relief, that as far as he knew, he had never killed another human being, and who, when he finally came home, looked around and saw that his platoon of 56 had been reduced to a fraction of a single squad. What does it mean to live the rest of your life carrying that weight? It means responsibility. It means that every breath you draw, every Sunday you sit in church, every meal you share with your wife, every grandchild who climbs into your lap, is borrowed. You hold it not because you earned it, but because something gave it to you to hold. What does a life like that ask of you day in and day out? It means you can't ever quite take an ordinary day for granted. It means you flinch, sometimes, when the wind moves a blind. It means you walk a little softer through a world that has no idea what that world really cost. And it means when somebody finally asks you to sit down with a tape recorder 50 years later and tell your whole story start to finish, you do it. You tell about the farm and the Marines who didn't want you, and the medics you didn't want to be, and the boy you crawled to in the dark, and the lieutenant who deserted, and the tank tracks that saved a life, and the bronze stars and purple hearts that sit in a glass-covered box your wife finally insisted on building, and the Lord's Prayer that two of you recited together at the edge of no man's land, while flares hung in the sky like the cold lamps of judgment. You tell it all. You bare your soul, maybe more than you should, but you do it because you're still here, and so many of the others aren't. This was the story of Walter G. Denise, a Boy Scout, a Christian Scientist, an enemy alien who became a naturalized citizen at an army base in Texas, a litter bearer who became a scout who became a lieutenant who came home and built a long, full, generous life that he never, not once, took for granted. May we never forget. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review or rating. It actually makes a huge difference in helping people find these stories and only takes a few seconds. This story can be shared thanks to a partnership with the Rutgers University Oral History Archives. If you've got a story you'd like their help in sharing, visit oralhistory.rutgers.edu. That's oralhistory.rutgers.edu. Visit povworldwar2.com for podcast updates and more. That's povww2.com. I'm Fernando Prieto. Thanks again for listening.